staying with the news of the passing on of Essop Pahad, who passed away at the age of 84. Pahad was an anti-apartheid activist and member of the ANC who was exiled after the banning of the party. On his return, he served under former President Thabo Mbeki and was the minister in the presidency from 1999 until 2008. For more on his legacy as well as the life that he led, we now speak to Professor Somadoda Fikeni, a former activist and commentator. Professor, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Your reaction to the news that the former cabinet minister Pahad has passed on?
Well, the first one is to convey our condolences to the family, which might be going through a difficult time right now, and also to pay tribute to this, giant in terms of some of the leaders that we've seen in our liberation terrain. And more importantly, he was also a public intellectual, something that is not very common when people hold public office. And he seemed to be comfortable in that role. And we pay tribute to him. It's the passing of a particular generation and the ushering in of a particular new generation in the cohort of leaders that we've seen.
Yeah. And from your interaction with him, Prof, and perhaps various panels that you may have sit on where he was also part of the panel, what would you say his contribution to knowledge creation was?
Well, the first one, he had combined his own lived experience in the liberation struggle, international exposure, participating in various anti-apartheid movements, presentations, writing of papers, having been in exile and having been part of the Communist Party and the ANC leadership. So he had that vast institutional memory. But that combined with ability to interpret current and emerging trends made him a scholar. One of the things which I thought was something which was good about him was his ability to listen, to understand. Because many people, once they're in power, they listen with a response already, which makes their understanding very difficult. And sometimes they just do not want to even entertain the notion of the appreciation of ideas, because they would say they already have the power, they know what they're doing, and they think that power and the might makes it right.
Yeah. And the final one, we're just speaking now to Mahlengi, who's the spokesperson of the ANC, and speaking about the role that he played during very tumultuous time, I guess, within the ANC, with the divisions as well, during the time of former President Jacob Zuma, where you had this group of elders who were not happy with the direction that the party was taking. What would you say informed that position that he took? To say that we are going to stand with the elders, but we also are going to speak out against the leader of the party and also the trajectory of the party?
Well, it was true to his character, because he would always be critical, even at the time when he was within former President Thabo Mbeki's administration. Where he spotted weaknesses, he would be critical and say, not everything that we're doing is right. And even when he reflected on the exile experience, he would say certain shortcomings. I remember him saying, we've written the document ready to govern, but we still need to build a lot of capacity. But I want to extend this tribute by saying the biggest measure of any leader comes when he's no longer holding an office of power and position. What are his pursuits in extension of what he believes in? When he started some of the scholarly projects, magazines such as The Thinker, and some of the projects such as the South African Democracy Education Trust, SADET, which produced quite a number of books documenting liberation struggle itself, that's a lasting legacy. That's a dialogue with posterity that will always be a hallmark of him. Many people, we know them because they are using the office they are occupying. But once you leave that office, the real measure of who you are, what you believe in, what impact and influence you have comes with the initiatives you make. So he had that impact post his occupying, major offices.
Yeah. A question that's coming to my mind now, looking at the visuals that are playing there as we have this conversation, is COSATU, of course, has its nationwide strike today. Here is Essop Pahad, who was part of the SACP, which calls itself the vanguard of the working class. What would you say or think perhaps his thinking was about the status of the working class in South Africa under democratic dispensation?
Surely he remained sympathetic to the condition of the workers, but being realistic on the fact that conditions had changed. That which was a liberation movement now was also a ruling political class. And the economic transformation had not actually occurred. Hence, we see so much inequality growing. And he would be sympathetic to the plight of the workers, especially when the cost of living is going up high. They are the ones who bear the brunt of all these particular changes, service delivery failures and so forth. But at the same time, he would be critical of the labor movement being so fragmented and sometimes self-interest within the labor aristocracy taking over to the expense of the very ordinary workers.
Thank you so much for your time, Professor Somadoda Fikeni there.